Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. I'm calling to order the Connecticut State Advisory Council for Special Education Executive Committee meeting on Wednesday, August 28th, 2024 at 9:01 a.m. I'm Susan Yankee. I'm the council chair and I'm a parent. Is there anyone here for public comment? Nope. Okay. I will move on to consent agenda. So we have on the that we're supposed to approve 2 sets of minutes, but we have only gotten 1 set, the April 3rd. We have not gotten the May 1st set yet. So I believe I have to make, I need someone to make a motion to move the May 1st, 2024 minutes for approval to our next executive committee meeting, which we have not planned yet, but will be happening. Is there someone who would make a motion to move those minutes? Jeff? Anyone to second it?
I'll second.
Catherine, thank you. So we have now had an approval to move the May 1st, 2024 executive committee meeting minutes to the next executive committee meeting. Sean, I see you diligently taking notes. You're awesome. Okay, so the April 3rd minutes need to be approved. Are there any corrections? I didn't see any. Nachi?
No.
No? Okay, great. Would somebody make a motion for approval of these minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve these minutes.
Catherine, and who would second it? Jennifer. Is there anybody who wasn't in attendance that needs to abstain? Nope. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. So the minutes of the April 3rd meeting are approved. And great. Next, committee matters. We're zipping through this. So we don't have a Jolie, and I need Jolie unless, Sean, you have all this information for us. And I want to discuss this with the group. So we have planned for the LOB meeting and breakfast to be October, I think it's like 18th. But it came to my realization that many legislators are up for re-election this year. Many. So whoever, a majority of who we would be inviting, and that includes Robin, all my area legislators are up for re-election. We won't know if they are the people we're supposed to be talking to. So I was wondering if we should think about moving it to after the November election. And then the other thing is, I don't see us being ready to discuss with them because our meeting is the 18th of September. And that means, like, Sean, like, you guys all have to get together. Like, after we get everything done, you guys then have to print all those. I just feel like it just feels like a huge lift. And I didn't know what anyone else was thinking about that.
I think it makes
think-
sense to do it after the election.
Yeah.
Does anybody else are there anyone else's legislators up for election? Besides me?
I know ours are in Bloomfield. So I know, yeah. So I think that's happening throughout the whole state. There's a lot of kind of changes happening. So I agree with you, Susan. I think that waiting isn't a bad thing. So in seeing what happens, how it plays out, but.
Right. And I think we should keep, our in-person meeting, maybe not at the LOB unless Jolie has already booked it. Because but I was thinking we could keep our legislative breakfast on the Wednesday morning. So I noticed if we want, because we have to have by January 15th is when we have to have our annual report done and given to the legislators. So I don't know if people were thinking, as I was looking, I was like, the first week of December, the 4th, that Wednesday could be a possibility because we never have snow. I mean, we never have snow for Christmas, right? We haven't since the
You don't
80s.
say things like that.
Well, we haven't since the 80s, I don't think. Anybody?
That I will say that works for me as long as my flight back from Sweden on the 3rd isn't delayed because they have snow or something. I mean, they
You won't be awake.
I'm going to be away visiting my son over Thanksgiving. So
Aww.
yeah.
Oh, I forgot about the Thanksgiving. So, I mean, I'm just throwing out a few dates, so that's good to know.
And as long as I'm back, I'm totally game for the 4th.
I wish we had Robin Comey's or anybody who has that knowledge to know when they, after you're voted in, I'm assuming it's not until January that they're inaugurated in, like officially? Like when do they start? When do
I don't
those
know.
legislators start going? I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I think the minute we do hit January, we do hit snow.
Yeah, I just have to say, a couple of years ago, I was away and my daughter was home and we had like a camera on the driveway, right? And so there was like a dusting of snow. Like, and I said to my daughter, can you like shovel the driveway? You would think that she was shoveling a trail to the Yukon the way she was hemming and hawing. It was like maybe a quarter of an inch of powder, you know, and she's out there and I'm watching her and like, I'm like, oh my God, you know, I mean, when I was little, we used to have like just tons, you know, and so it was just funny to watch her just bitching about it. And I'm like, you could just take the leaf blower and get rid of that snow.
Well, maybe at some point we'll get the snow we used to get. And then that stuff's heavy, that wet stuff. Okay, so I don't know. I would love to know anybody's thoughts. Anybody. What do you think? Because then the other option would be Wednesday, January 8th.
So I think for today's meeting, maybe we don't
Yeah.
need to decide on a date. We can just decide that we want to explore changing the date
Yeah.
until after, and then we can get input from Robin when an ideal time would be and check with the
Okay.
whole group.
Great. And
That
then
would
I
be
need
what I
to
would
find out,
propose.
and I need to also find out if Jolie had already booked all of this. At the
And I think it's
LOB.
fine to be at the legislative office building, even if we don't have our thing then. 'Cause
Yeah.
we've done it a couple of times and I don't see a problem
Okay.
with it if it's already booked.
All right. So, Sean, do you want me to let Jolie at least know, don't book the breakfast yet, but keep the LOB booked?
Susan, sure, you can. And I will also talk to her about that
Oh.
too. We'll double up and do that just to make sure our bases are covered. My sense is, and I could be wrong here, but I don't think it occurred yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so just an FYI. We also, just for your information, we have a meeting tomorrow with CERC around them assisting us as far as coordinating meetings for the SAC. So they're going to be providing assistance to us related to the SAC. So just an FYI. So I wanted to give you that information too.
Okay. So then my other thing about, we would love to have where we're having our meetings that are in person pretty much set up ahead of time. That would be a CERC thing.
Well, I believe
Yeah.
so. I think that they may be handling some of that, and we're meeting with them tomorrow. It's on my calendar for tomorrow, so they may be doing a lot of that coordination. So I will find out more at that meeting tomorrow. So let me find out more, and I could circle
Okay.
back with you too.
Great. And then, Sean, if you could also at that meeting, make sure that we know that we don't want all our meetings at CERC. It's very difficult for a lot of people to get there. We would like to have them at different places.
They're very
that's
aware
fine.
of that. We've told them that already, that, we want it throughout the state so that people don't feel like it's always in one location. So that's centrally located throughout the state so that people have variability as far as locations are concerned.
That's great, because I was trying to figure out what's halfway between Hartford and Norwalk, and Catherine, you're coming from really far too, and Jennifer, you are too, and it's like New Haven is part way. I know Nachi works in Milford, correct, Nachi?
New Haven and Milford,
New
yes.
Haven, Milford. So I didn't know if we ever would have a New Haven, because I know New Haven's only like 35 minutes from Hartford
Right.
on a good day.
Yeah, we're happy to look at options, and I know that they're
Okay.
happy to work with us on options too.
That you are so wonderful, and I appreciate everyone. I appreciate you guys doing that. Anyone, any thoughts on that?
I appreciate
Okay.
going halfway.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. And Sean, I also noticed, I went on the online calendar, and the afternoon meeting that we had discussed, the 4 o'clock or whatever meeting is I don't know what time we discussed, 2:30, is no longer on the online calendar. it was readjusted to like a 10 o'clock. I can't do that. Maybe I can. Can anyone pull up the calendar and see if the time, because I know that to see if the times are right, and I forgot to look to see if when we're in person, if they've been adjusted to 10 a.m. Anyone find it? I see eyes darting. All I noticed was the afternoon meeting was not on there anymore.
I'm looking. Sorry, I was muted when I was trying to tell you I was looking. What date was that, Susan?
I don't remember. I don't
All
remember.
of the meetings that I see are 9 or 10.
Yeah, I forgot which one because I can't find a hard copy of the list of the meetings. I was looking through my emails for things from Jolie, and I know that we had made an afternoon meeting.
And it said tentative.
Right, tentative, but I was hoping we were going to keep that one. So should I look out, Sean, should I reach out to Jolie on that one too, or should I wait? Because I don't want you to go to CERC with the different wrong information.
Let me, I will mention it during our meeting tomorrow, just that we had that, and I'm not sure what happened to it, that it kind of fell off the radar. Just so there's a mention to it. We should have that information someplace. I know that I have it in my notes someplace too.
Yeah,
if you can, if either of you dig it up from the past, anyone, and email me it, I'll look for it too. And that way, at least I have it on my radar, so that when I go to the meeting tomorrow, I can mention it.
Yeah, I was looking up for old because it would be on sometimes it's on an agenda, but since this is the new season, it's not tacked onto the bottom.
I have it on November 20th.
November 20th?
That's what I have a Zoom for.
It's a Zoom in the afternoon? Okay.
Yeah, 2 to 3:30.
Catherine, do you think we would have new students voted in by then? So that, because that would be the point of it, would basically be for students.
What day are we
can't
talking?
hear you. Catherine,
you're muted.
Thank you. That would be really nice. As of right now, we don't have any student candidates. So I'm going to be optimistic and say, yes, we're going to have at least one, and that would be a great time to vote them in.
okay. So we can maybe look November 20th right now feels so far away, but so did this day. Right?
Yeah.
I think we have a virtual meeting on February 26th as well, potentially be turned into an afternoon meeting.
Okay. So Sean, did you get that November 20th or February 26th? But the virtual on February 26th might make more sense.
Yep. Got it.
Okie dokie. Yay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We need to set up the calendar for the annual report meetings and the executive committees, at least just for the next few months. And then Sean, I'm losing my mind. Sean, you remember that great meeting that we had with you and I had with you and Brian, where we went over all the work we did on the annual report? And Brian and you kind of clarified, yes, should be written this way, or that was brilliant. And I would like to make sure that is planned after we're done, that you guys meet with us and say, this should be reworded this way.
Okay. Yeah, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, it was super helpful, but we've just got to do it, I think, earlier this year because it's due the 15th of January instead of the 15th of February. So, calendar for the annual report meeting. It's like I'm making a dentist appointment. No offense, I know what we're doing, but it's a lot of work.
When you say
report
work
meeting.
with us, it's like pulling teeth.
No, I'm saying you guys are amazing. So how about this? I'm really excited to see you guys because that's the best part of it. But making your brain work is the hardest part. And getting all that information out on the paper clearly is difficult. Okay. So we won't want to have any meetings until after we really kind of solidify it with the SAC. So I would say October would probably, or November would probably be November would be our first. Oh, not if we're trying to meet the legislators. It would probably be October, right?
Well, you're saying with the
Yeah.
legislators we don't know if they're going to be reelected.
Yeah, but I'm saying for us to meet as a group to kind of start putting pieces into the annual report.
My vote is for October because,
You're
again,
gone.
like it's a short month in November because we also have Veterans Day, we have Thanksgiving. I have a conference as well. I mean, you can meet without me, but I'm just, I think November will end up being a shorter month than we think. So my vote is for October.
Okay.
And we already
Do you
have a council meeting, a full council on the 16th, right?
Yeah, we do. So probably be
Yeah.
better after that. And I'm singing Beethoven 9th, like right then too, that weekend. So I'm going to be crazy busy too, leading up to that.
What about
So-
staying for an hour after the meeting? Is that a possibility on the 16th?
I could do that.
So that's in person.
Yeah,
Might be hard for me.
okay.
Why am I October 2025? Yeah, that's why I'm like, what day is that? Okay. So I'm looking at my October
16th.
16th. Yeah, that's probably too hard for me because I teach also in the afternoons.
What about hour before? So we start at 10. Would 9 o'clock work?
What day were we looking at? The 18th? you said?
The
16th.
Wednesday, the 16th?
Well, actually, Jeff, are you planning on being in person at that meeting at the LOB?
I mean, at this point, I could make it, so.
I would prefer, just because it's such a hard day for me to
Mhm.
not do it that day. I know you're trying to make
Okay.
it easier, but I prefer to do it after, because that's a really difficult week for me after. Is that okay? Like the following week?
Okay, like Wednesday, the 23rd.
I
Yeah.
have that open, yep.
Yeah, that would work.
And that's
Nachi?
virtual for executive, is that what we're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, October 23rd, Nachi and
Yes, works for me. Thank you.
Sean. And
I'm gonna say
yeah.
tentatively for me because
Oh.
I'm supposed to be possibly going to a conference that week. But just schedule it, and you know how it is. I'll find a way to be there. If it's virtual, it'll be easier.
You're more important than I am to be at
Nah.
these things.
Nope.
Yep.
And I'm going to early propose that we put it out to the SAC. If there's anybody that's interested in going into leadership next year, that they come and be a process of writing the report with us. I think it's really important for them to see the extent of the work up front, not to chase anybody away, to
Okay.
inspire them to want to do this work.
I'm literally writing the word inspire. I'm going to use that at a meeting. Inspire to be in executive committee role, come to.
Right,
planning meeting.
but what Jen wants to do is also let them see how much you have to perspire.
Yeah. It's
So we say
hard.
9 o'clock for that meeting, should I put it in the calendar
Yeah.
9?
Can we do 9 to 10:30? Because we always take, and then so if we end early, we end early.
Okay, I just want to know what to put it in, okay.
Yeah,
And did
that's
you
what
say
I do.
22nd and 23rd? I'm sorry.
23rd. You are very, 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 very busy.
Everybody
9 to-
is.
I'm only busy in certain chunks. And afternoons, I'm busy. All right. What's next? I'm like trying to read my thing. And then we can set up more. That's the first one. Do we want to set up more?
Let's do doodle polls for the rest of them.
Okay. All right. And then we need to include Sean and Brian, because I know Brian sometimes is available and Sean's sometimes available for these doodle polls, future planning, annual report. Okay. I'm going to try to do that, guys. It'll be my first doodle poll. Just be excited. I'd like to invite the. Oh, what are everybody's thoughts on, we've got the special education task force right now is doing on September 12th. Jen, I saw you, they're doing a press conference. Which day is the press conference? I have to look at my calendar. On the findings of their special education recommendations. Whether it's not the finding, it's on the recommendations. We're putting up the recommendations already.
No, I think it's on our report of the findings because we're not doing recommendations until after we do the forums.
Great. So there's a meeting on the 10th with the Special Education Task Force, and they've asked that, a para and a couple educators come, and I invited Dawn. I just heard back from her because she's been kind of out of commission for a little bit. So I believe she's going to be attending that virtually and giving input for paraeducators on that report. But on the 12th, they're holding a press conference to kind of go through what they've found, right? We got to invite. But my thoughts are to invite, and this is just thoughts, the chairs of the Special Education Task Force at some point to talk us through the report so that it's very complicated report, like an overview so that we know what we should be not duplicating or making sure that we are keeping an eye out for that legislation that they're going to be creating. I don't know what anybody thinks. And I think this is something that should get run by Brian too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would say first check with Brian and see,
Okay.
Because I feel like if he thought that was necessary, he would probably have already invited them.
Okay.
And you and me and he are all on that task force. So we
Right.
should be able to convey, even though officially it should be like you, because you're the representative.
But for me, answering questions about the budget process, about excess funds, things like that, you really need someone who's more fiscally minded to answer questions about that. That was my own thought. But I guess, yeah, the excess cost grants and things like that. But I guess that would be Brian.
It would be him or someone from our office may be able to do that. So, I mean, I just think that he may be able to do that, Susan.
Okay.
Or if he feels like he wants to pull someone in, he could definitely do that. But I would definitely run it by him.
Okay. All right. I will. Yeah. I thank you guys for that and for that. We have discussed multiple times to set up a bylaw committee. Sorry, we have so much housekeeping today. To set up a bylaw committee, kind of concrete policies and procedures for next year, so that when we have a question about what we're supposed to do with membership or anything like that, we can just go to these policies and procedures, and it would set it up for whoever the next executive committee is. Thoughts?
So some councils have their executive committee review it, and
Okay.
if there's any draft revisions, then propose it to the full council. Another thing you could do is have each committee review their section of the bylaws, like membership, doing membership, legislative, etc., and them giving it to the executive committee, which I guess it's kind of silly because we're all on all the different committees, but we already have a good core set of bylaws, so we really shouldn't be modifying them that much, but we should be reviewing them annually.
Right. I'm also thinking more about just like a steps process on bringing in a new member, on that kind of minutia that doesn't really go in the bylaws. But
so operating procedures is what.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's something that each committee could do for like their chair, like that could be one of their tasks that they do with their group.
So,
we could get the bylaws and then we could submit them to each of the committees, like Jen is suggesting, and ask if each of the committees has any comments they want to do to fine tune the bylaws to them. And then get some feedback, and then we could kind of either say, yes, these are great, keep them the way they are, or maybe make some kind of like fine tuning.
okay, and then ask them, because Catherine, does your committee need guidance on what you would like the procedures of, because just you vote here, then you bring it to the executive committee, and then da-da-da-da.
I think that would be great, because while a lot of the members, for example, while a lot of the members on the membership committee have been on the membership committee for a while, it's not like we're reviewing applications on a regular basis. So we get to a point where we think, oh yeah, we know what we're doing. And then a period of time goes by, and then we have a number of applications to review, and then we try to recall what it is we did in the past. So we certainly want to make sure we're doing everything by the books. So I think it would be great if we had procedures that were written down.
And is it too much to ask your committee to kind of go over their procedures and then give it to us?
No, I think that that's something we can do, because, I would like the procedures to be as simple as possible, and really just a bulleted or numbered step-by-step list that isn't really going to exceed more than a page.
Yeah, almost like a checklist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would be extremely helpful for
Yeah.
Committees. Okay, so I'll bring that up on our full SAC meeting and talk to everybody. So, okay, great. So what else do I have? For speakers next year, I know it's been brought up to me by members that they would like to have speakers on topics that we are doing when we're making our recommendations. If we're making a transition recommendation, somebody that, I know we have a lot of wonderful people, but is there already a transition group that's already doing all this? Like having someone, I know that's like Missy, I'm just using transition as an example. So that I feel like we duplicate a lot of work, and I feel like we don't know about a lot of great work and thoughts that are going on sometimes, if we don't have a member on one of those committees. Anyone's thoughts? I'm just trying to make next year easier. No?
I'm thinking, Susan, like something we all could maybe do better, like when we're doing our roundtables. We have a lot of people in these groups, like you said, and they might not necessarily be representing SAC on there, but it is a stakeholder group that are on that might have relevant information. So, for example, the suspension and expulsion work group, the restraint prevention work group, there, us in the special ed task force, people are part of different groups, and we should maybe encourage members, if they have information that's relevant to the work of the SAC, they might share updates from those groups.
Okay. That would be great. So I think we
might need to train a little around that to help make it like smooth and effective and within our time.
Right.
And I think if there's priority areas that, there's a specific issue that people want data and some type of, I wouldn't say training, but education on, we're happy to have someone come and speak. We just want to know what those areas are. So specific, let's say transition, as you brought it up,
right.
We're happy to have someone in our office come and speak on the data related to transition and the issue of transition. Just let us know. We're happy to pull that information.
Okay. All right. I have a million notes. Okay. Next thing. Jeff needs a reappointment letter, and I saw him reach out to Brian, so that should be taken care of, I think.
Well, let me address that. I mean, I've been, not to be a pain in the butt, but I've been asking for that for years. I mean, I was, my last appointment ran out with Governor Malloy, and I know I had asked Catherine, but Catherine's not in charge of that. Brian's in charge of it. And it's always like, well, we have to do with our legislative liaison or do something. So again, this isn't a complaint, it's an observation. I just have never gotten a clear answer as to what's the problem here, I mean, I could reach out to some legislators or something like that, but so Sean, do you know I mean, there's nothing controversial for a reappointment. It's not like any of us have any, I mean, what's the problem?
I think it's just, again, Jeff, I think it's how quickly or the priority in which this takes place. So Brian we have a legislative liaison. That person communicates with someone over at the governor's office. It just is timing. And it takes a long time for us to access that. I know that there's been communication back and forth. It's not a quick process for us to access any of that. And I know that he's communicated multiple times to get these done. I think it's really about priority for the governor's office. So, it's not like it hasn't been communicated. It's just about accessing them in our office. So I know he has reached out.
Well, I appreciate that, but and as far as like the timing goes, it's been years, not just a couple of weeks or months, years, and being the stickler for procedure that I am, working in the government, if you have a bunch of us that are all in a thing whose terms have expired, I mean, not that we do anything controversial or anything, but do our votes count really if you're no longer official, so I mean, again, it's not like we're doing any groundbreaking, we're not passing legislation, we're commenting on legislation, but I don't know, I just want to raise that again. I'd like to get that done.
Okay.
We're advisory. I think if we were governing, it would be a big problem. We're an advisory group. And Jeff, I have to go through the governor as well. And I had to I'm sure you had to fill out the background check, extensive information.
Right. Yeah, it was amazing. It was detailed and long. So
yes. And when I recently had to do the same thing for the special education task force. And when I was going through it with them, they said, oh, you're already in the system for the special education count for the SAC, I'm sorry. And it was through the governor's office, but because my appointment was through one of the majority leaders, I got approved for that within a month. But my governor's one is still sitting in the system. So it's not just you. I think it's like a system. It's a system thing.
Okay, so this is actually one of those things too that I don't know if it's under membership. I would love to know, like, how it's the procedures for this, so that the future group knows it goes through CSDE is who makes that question. And also when it says in our who appoints different members, how does that process work? Because it's in the bylaws, but the process is murky.
Yeah, I think, Susan and Sean, maybe you can ask Brian. I don't know if there's a standard process for all state agencies that can be shared with us. I kind of get the feeling that there is, but membership can certainly collect that information. But I think that there's a protocol that probably has to be adhered to. And I'm sure that's published somewhere.
I'm happy to follow up with Brian on that.
Thanks, Sean.
Great. Sean, I really want to share, I'm moving on to another topic because there's 7 and I know we've got to get to membership and legislative. I really want to, I don't know if it's Sean or Jennifer, the special ed task force, I've asked them for a flyer PDF version of all the meetings because I know Brian's the one.
It's coming.
All this up. It's
yes,
coming?
It is coming. It is in proofing and waiting approval. I think Jane sent the draft to Brian.
It's you
so
guys?
As soon as we have that approved, I will definitely get it to you.
That's awesome. Well, or to you, because you're the one who sends it out. I want to get that out to the SAC.
Don't worry,
right?
We'll get it out there.
Oh, okay. Where are we now? Wait, I gotta stop writing on everything. Okay. I don't know if I was gonna mention this at the big full meeting or now. I noticed everyone's noticed that there is a new policy. Sean, I've been talking about forever about the cell phone pouches. And I know it makes mention of students with IEPs, but I was just wondering about is your department going to also be sending guidance out to the special education administrators for students with IEPs, or is the guidance just say, oh, if you have an IEP, you can make an exception? Because I know Catherine and I have discussed this about how students using their phones. I didn't know if there's anything specific.
I'm not sure what BSC plans to do. I could ask Brian about that too.
Okay.
Can you
If any
clarify? I don't know if anybody knows. Is it just guidance, or is this a law and the guidance was passed to say this is what you have to do?
It's my understanding that it was guidance that they said they kind of developed like basically what constitutes like a model policy so that districts can adopt it or not. But by having the guidance coming down from the state, there's, some kind of backing where if people protest, or saying, hey, I don't like that, you can point or look, this is something that's what my understanding is. And that's from reading the news account.
And some schools already have their own policy. It's set in motion, and this came out kind of late. And so I've heard from schools that they're saying this is almost too late, school started, for us to implement a new policy. So it is a policy, but I feel like the special education department maybe possibly, and this can be a recommendation from our group, since everyone's going to have different policies or versions of a policy, there needs to be something kind of set in concrete of how to approach this when you have a student who has the needs of using this phone, to make sure that there is something concrete. So that's could be a recommendation.
Well, it might be for some prospective legislation to create a law, like kind of what you're saying is to kind of have like a little escape hatch for somebody with an IEP, so that if the school district adopts a policy of no cell phones, that there could be a countervailing provision that allows for some sort of access to a cell phone. It would be interesting to hear from the special educators, what they think is good. I mean, it would be interesting for us. We could all, from our different perspectives and angles of looking at things, if a kid has an IEP, should they be allowed to walk around with a cell phone or just have quicker access? Interesting discussion.
I know I've spoken to the deaf community and the deaf special educators, and they say how important for a student that's a deaf, that it's actually their social. Sometimes that's how they type things out or how they talk to their friends. It's also how they access transcripts, things like that, ASL remotely. So, and I know Catherine, I've spoken to you about it. So I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed further.
If it makes anybody feel better, in the IEP, you can have there's a supplementary aids and services, assistive technology. You can write those types of things. So it's not necessarily that if you have an IEP, you should be excused and able to use your phone. It's if you needed to access and benefit like from your education at school. So whether it's, you need your calendar, your planner, the talk to text, whatever. It's about the individualization. So it's not like state law isn't supposed to take away your rights. We still have the federal law. So the students still have all the same protections they would under the federal law. If there's policies in the state such as this, it would require an accommodation for the student if they need it. But same thing like with school policies and rules, if it's something the other students have to follow and it's not related to their disability, they have to follow the rules. So if they don't need the accommodation, it's not just a free pass.
Exactly. Thank you, Jen.
Great.
So it's not a blanket. It's not a blanket release. It's just on an as needed basis.
Individual based on
Wait,
the
right.
child-
But
child's-
the interesting thing is, so here's the thing, if you have it on an as-needed basis, do you first have to file an application to have access to it and then demonstrate, a show cause? Or can you just walk around with it and it's up to the administration to say, wait a minute, you can't have that show? In other words, it's like, do you have to get like a beach permit to go to the beach, or do you wait to get ticket, or, I don't know. So that'd be an interesting thing too. How does that work?
It should
Right,
be
and then
discussed
the
at
safety
at
comes in
PPT
too.
And at the 504 meeting should be discussed.
Mhm.
As Jennifer said, it's individual needs. So basically the need is shown. And be it if there was, so AT has been going on for a long time, of course, and this is an
Mhm.
offset or a piece of AT, where it's much more. When years ago, when we were first looking at AT, we didn't have the abilities that we do on smartphones. Now with smartphones, they're able to do so much more. If you remember, there was Tom Snyder Productions where there was, the spell checkers, all those things were different gadgets. Now we can do everything. Students could do it all using a smartphone, thereby, a piece of assistive technology, meaning the understanding of it and the child's need for it, would be delineated on the IEP. And also for students with 504 accommodations may require them for communication as well. So that would and has been and should be ongoing discussion at those individualized meetings.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I
that
think that,
should happen.
oh yeah, no, I was just going to say, I'm sure that, whether a child has an IEP or a 504 plan or another type of plan, it should describe when and how the child should use the cell phone, as well as all other AT devices.
Right.
Right. Okay, just because also Special Education Task Force is not taking this up. So I just wanted to make sure that there was some sort of guidance so that, and so Sean, if you guys can find out what's going on. I'm sure you're doing something on your end. Because it also
ask
comes up
Brian about
with
it.
safety and notifying students sometimes too, and safety of with hearing loss. Okay, sorry I brought up that bag of worms, but I thought it would be
No,
better
it's okay. It's a good discussion, and I
Okay.
think it identifies some possible areas of training. I know for my organization, that would be an area where we might do some parent training and professional
Okay.
development around that, because it's the things that you would use already exist. It's just we're not always maximizing the supports that are available or documenting the supports we're using in the IEP correctly. So training could be a way, not necessarily guidance, and it could be faster.
Yeah, 'cause special educators are, we've got the welcome back meeting and and I know they get guidance. So I didn't know if they're getting guidance on this.
And
That's next week.
and
That's next week,
yeah,
so I
it
don't,
is next
probably
week.
not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Schools
I
are already
and
like,
it's not unique to Connecticut. We know right next door in New York, this is a big topic. It's a topic in other states. Interestingly enough, when I was in Finland this summer and I was reading the local paper, there was a huge spread on cell phone issues in schools in Finland. So, so it's
that's definitely a
global.
problem.
Yeah, it really is.
Yep, definitely a problem for social emotional. It's a balancing act. Okay, so next, membership. You thought we'd never get there. Sorry. I know
Okay.
you have to
All
let
right.
people off.
So update on membership. Membership committee is going to have to meet again and review our current batch of applications. I was in touch with Brian, and we communicated via email because we have such a good problem where we have so many qualified applicants for our one position. So we want to make sure that we as a membership committee are fair, equitable, and adhering to the guidelines appropriately when making our decisions. So, Jolie, I proposed some dates to you. I may have to get back to you. One of those dates I may no longer be available. So, and I know the proposed dates are coming up. So really, we'd love to meet before our September SAC meeting. That just may not happen. So the goal is for membership to meet within the next month. And then also, I'm just going to pull up a note that I have too, because I think the membership committee also needs to look at the membership survey, because one thing that's come up is we as a committee want to make sure that those who are interested in joining the SAC are aware of the level of commitment. It's like with the current members, inviting them to a report writing meeting so they know the level of involvement when you're leading a SAC committee, for example. We want everyone who's interested in joining the SAC as a member to be aware of the level of commitment. So we want to look at the membership survey and see if there's any additional information we'd like to include. Are there any additional questions we would like to add? And whatever we put together as a proposal, we would then like to share with the executive committee to review and provide feedback on. And I'm just interested in any thoughts or ideas any of you may have at the moment that you think the membership committee and I should take into consideration.
Didn't we mention at the back to school meeting that there was going to be try to find a way to let the special education administrators know we had student openings?
Yes.
I don't know how to do that. I'm actually not, I didn't get an invite, so I'm not going to that.
You know what? Let me contact Sean. Should I contact Brian about that?
Catherine, I would, email him and let him know, because he could put it in one of his openings or when
Thank
he
you.
opens up. And Susan, I'm sorry you didn't get an invite.
That's all right.
I can't understand that.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I like going to lunch. My favorite part.
Is it too late to register?
No, it's not.
Oh,
Okay.
I can
Wait,
send
but
you the link.
Jolie's mouthing something.
She could have my spot. She could have my.
I might be going into the city to teach that day, so I have
No.
to know.
Susan, I have a feeling if you really wanted to attend that meeting, you would have been
Okay.
on my email. So,
No,
seriously, moving forward, Susan, you just send out an email
on me.
You just send out an email to us, but our chair and our SAC members are absolutely, I'm not sure where the glitch was that. I'm sorry. And
Don't
if
worry
anyone
about it.
wants,
I feel like it comes out. Sometimes it came from CERC or something, but this is not important. We can do
okay,
membership.
if anyone
Membership.
wants
What's
to
up, Catherine?
attend and they hit that, just email me after and we'll figure it out.
Sounds good. Catherine, that's all I can think of is.
Okay. Thank you for that
Great.
reminder, Susan. Yeah, no, I'll reach out to Brian about that. So, because we have one student member, that student still wants to remain active. She has 1 year left in school, but we have 3 openings, so it would be fabulous if we could fill them.
Didn't our other Brian say he had somebody possibly?
I think he did. Didn't Brian Smith say he had someone?
Yeah, but I don't think that was, I can reach out to him.
It didn't pan out.
Okay.
May not have. We all have really good intentions, but I'll follow up with him.
Okay.
That's.
And I know we were going to try to specify, we had a question about middle schoolers. And I know we had discussed that what we talk about is really, it seems like we need it seems to be, this should be high school. I don't know what other people's opinions are. This is pretty heavy load even for high school students.
I agree.
Susan, CPAC is going to have, we have, I think, 3 sessions at the back to school, and one of them's a youth session. So I can ask them to share that information in their breakout session about the youth.
And do we have like a student flyer? I think we did.
We do.
Yes, on the website we do. So
it's on the website.
All right, I'm
if
writing all
that's
these
up
down.
to date, we can print that.
Okay, I'll share that out. Anything else, Miss Catherine Chair of the membership
That's,
committee?
that's it. That's it. Unless anyone has any other questions.
Then we shall move on to Mr. Jeffrey Spar, who is the chair of our legislative committee.
Well, we don't have anything yet, so we're just waiting to move forward, and we'll just, we'll see. I don't have anything to report right now, actually, Kind of in a lull. We're in the summer lull.
Great. Ms. Jolie, do we have any kind of basic agenda for our September 18th meeting? I see a half no. Because I know we have to do, we need to finish up what we're working on, our recommendations and priorities. Does anyone know if Brian has anything that he wanted to plan or needs to plan required by law for presenters?
He hasn't said anything that I'm aware of. I'm sure he'll give us something after this point, and then we can send
Okay,
it out
wonderful.
to you as far as a draft.
Wonderful. Is there anything that we haven't addressed that people have been thinking about this summer and they're like, I really think I should bring that up at the SAC? Is there anyone that they've come across that we need to be working? No?
Look, one thing, and I'm just going to put Sean on notice of this. No, it's not a bad thing. I have a question. So I am on, there's an organization called CHAD, which is an ADHD organization. It's a national organization. It's probably the preeminent national ADHD organization. And I had previously been on the board of directors and was the national secretary, but I'm on the public policy committee. And one of the things that's a big concern for CHAD is kind of recognizing ADHD as a separate disability. As you know, or as you may know, it's kind of lumped in under OHI, other health impairment. And so when it comes time to collecting statistics, et cetera, it's you really don't get like a breakout of how many ADHD that there is. And then another thing is that ADHD has a lot of different comorbidities. So it's kind of like always around the background, even if somebody might be having a primary diagnosis. Like my son, for example, has autism and ADHD, So one of the things that the CHAD group was trying to do was trying to, push to get some sort of differential recognition. Maybe not, as you might know, under the IDEA, there's like 16 different disabilities that are listed, one of which is not ADHD. Like I said, it goes under the OHI. But one of the things that was noticed was in Connecticut, in the IEP, there's a box for recognizing, so you have OHI, but then OHI with ADHD, which the CHAD group thought was fantastic. And one of the things that we wanted to know was there any data collection to show, how many of the boxes that they have for the OHI, or get some kind of statistics of prevalence of ADHD. And I'd also like to kind of know where that came from. How did all of a sudden this box appear on the on the IEP form? I don't know if it was something that not the SAC did, but the Special Ed Bureau did or something like that. But I did write to Brian. I know it's the summertime, but Sean, I'm going to forward you that email. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gather some information. So basically, how did this come about, which everybody thinks is a great idea, and has there been any data collection? Because it would be really important. So that's just
I will
kind
tell
of,
you.
yeah.
I will tell you, Jeff, that we do collect that data. I know that Diane collects all the data on all of the disability categories. So I'm sure that she collects the data on each of those categories and the number of students under each of those disability categories. So I'm sure that data is collected. I'm not sure how the disability category came about. That would be a Brian question, but I'm sure we have the data related to that.
Okay, so let me do this, Sean. I just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm going to send you a copy of the email that I sent to Brian, kind of putting this all down, and I'll send it to everybody in the executive committee, because I think it's very, very interesting. I mean, it's really important. I think, wearing my ADHD hat, to keep statistics on this. So anyhow, that's the only thing I have to add.
Jeff, Jennifer just put in the chat only primary disability data.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of kids, especially with ADHD, where it's a co-occurring disability. So that's not necessarily tracked. The only data I believe that it is on the IEP is the primary disability category. So
You're
so
correct,
that's
Jen.
what.
Yeah.
Does that make
So it would
sense?
only be the primary disability. So if a child has a co-occurring disability or a secondary disability, it would only be the primary disability that we're tracking.
Well, I know that on the, and I'm just looking at the email that I had sent Brian. So I know that on the form where there's the boxes for under primary disability, so you could, it starts with, you know, autism and deaf and emotional. But one of the boxes, one box is other health impairment, but another box is OHI dash ADD ADHD. So what you're saying, Jen, is if a person has both autism and the OHI ADD, that they might check off only the autism box, but not multiple. Is that what you're saying then?
Yeah, it's whatever is the primary disability. The disability that impacts them the most will be the primary disability. So for students where that might be their only identified disability, that's typically what we would do the OHI/ADHD. But still, I would venture to say that there is probably kids that are on just regular OHI that could also have ADHD. So it's really on how people document it. It's not going to give you how many people have ADHD in the whole state. It might not even account for students who are 504 students who have a primary disability category of ADHD, but don't receive special ed services. I don't know how that data is collected.
No, I get that, but you know, I mean, there might be some, you know, so you're right. I mean, particularly given ADHD has a lot of comorbidity, so that's going to be one that's going to be, you know, secondary to a lot of other things. I get that. Anyhow, I'm just going to follow it. Jen, if you don't mind, I'm going to send it to you as well if you have any insights in that. But
sure.
But it would be interesting to know. I mean, because when I showed this to the people in my my CHAD public policy committee, they were really excited about this that Connecticut did. I mean, it was like we were like in the vanguard, and they were excited. So I'd kind of like to take this opportunity, if we can find out how that box got there, to kind of crow about it. So I'm kind of looking at it that way too. I mean, it would be nice to say, hey, this is why we did it, because they were just like, wow, they were excited about that. So it could be a good way for us to, like, you know, polish our trophy.
Okay. Thank you, guys. That was awesome discussion. Anyone have anything else before we adjourn?
Did we plan our agenda?
We just mentioned that to Sean of what we need to do, our priorities and recommendations, but he's going to get back to us on if Brian has anything that needs to present on. So is there anything else that you would like to have on there besides priorities and recommendations and roundtable? Recommendations work and roundtable, because we only have an hour and a half. So I didn't know if Brian needs to present.
I think he typically shares what he shared at back to school. So if there are updates, any data that's shared there, that he typically would share it with the SAC for those who are not able to attend.
Right. And I also in my executive report, I'm going to go over the special ed task force and the fact that they're having those meetings. So I guess that would be a slide, would be the dates of the meetings when we get that PDF.
Have it on my list, Susan.
I think you are awesome, because it looks like it already is in a PDF form.
It is, but we have registration links and everything that will be coming with the PDF that we're creating. And I already messaged, we will have the student flyer at our table, at our CPAC table at back to school and in our youth session.
Okay. See, I got to go because I just remembered all the pastries that are sitting there next to them. All right, I got to figure this out. Okay. Anybody, anything?
Thank you for doing this.
Great. And Jolie, we have questions for you too about, Sean says you have a meeting tomorrow, so we'll get back to you about meeting times and dates and things after that. You have a meeting with CERC.
All right, I'm going to log off, guys, okay?
Okay, guys, let's make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. A second.
Okay, great. The meeting is adjourned at 10:01 a.m. Matthew, could you
Okay, thanks.
stop?
Bye.
Bye. Bye, bye.